Hey, what's up, everyone? Just want to give a really quick review of Framing Britney Spears as part of the New York Times Presents series on Hulu. I watched the documentary yesterday, and I didn't realize that in this ongoing legal battle regarding Britney Spears' conservatorship, that there actually was going to be an update today. I guess Jamie Spears, it didn't go in his favor. My thoughts in this review are just going to be regarding the documentary itself. I'm not here to comment on anyone's character, on whether or not the documentary portrays anyone correctly or incorrectly. I just want to talk about the documentary from a filmmaking standpoint. I grew up in kind of the key demographic for when Britney, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, they burst onto the scene. I was kind of in the key demographic during that time. You know, I would still consider myself a Britney Spears fan. I think probably anybody who grew up around that time would, even if just for nostalgia's sake. So when I heard about this documentary and how it's kind of went viral, I thought, well, you know, it kind of piqued my interest a little bit. I watched it. It's a documentary. Keep in mind that when I say documentary, I'm not talking about something that would play in theaters as like a standalone type documentary. This is very much a news magazine type documentary. Nothing wrong with that, but it does kind of limit the scope. And plus, they're working with a smaller budget, which normally that wouldn't be a problem, but it kind of is, and I'll explain why here in a minute. Overall, it's a fascinating documentary. Just from the standpoint about Britney's conservatorship, I would say in kind of the third part of the documentary is where that aspect, things get really interesting. Obviously, the documentary has an agenda to say that her conservatorship has been unfair. I think the documentary makes a good case for it. I feel like some of the interviewees, obviously they weren't going to land one-on-one interviews with Britney Spears or Jamie Spears or anyone really close to these individuals. So some of the people that they choose to talk to, I feel like maybe they weren't close enough to the situation to really give an in-depth analysis. And they admit, you know, they have been removed from the situation. They don't have the latest analysis, like the latest in-depth analysis of what specifically is going on. So I don't know I feel like maybe a little bit too much attention is given to their thoughts. I don't know, just my humble 2 cents. I will say that there are 2 interviewees that I really did. One I liked. It's a woman who was Britney's kind of her assistant. She gives a very loving interview, and again, I know nothing about most of these people, so I'm just going by how the documentary presents them, how they presented themselves in the documentary. But she seems to really care about Britney. She shows some of the aspects of when Britney was starting out in show business, and that was really interesting, fascinating from a standpoint. If you're a fan, you'll really enjoy that part. She seems like a nice person. Who knows? But in the documentary, she really does. On the flip side, there's an interviewee that kind of, if there's one thing, the documentary is very straightforward. It doesn't have a lot of flourishes, but it does have one trick up its sleeve. It pulls the rug underneath the viewer in one instance. There was one interviewee where it really shocked me what the documentary did. I guess this is a spoiler alert, kind of. You already know, if you're a Britney fan, if you're familiar with her, you already know what happened in real life, but you might not know something that the documentary reveals. So I guess this could be taken as a mild spoiler, sorta. Nothing that's going to ruin your experience. One of the interviewees is a photographer. He was a paparazzi. When he starts being interviewed, he is very much like, oh, I was one of the good paparazzi photographers. You know, those other guys, they harassed Britney, but I was one of the good ones. And he comes across sincere. Like, you kind of are like, oh, okay, wow, they must have found one of the nice ones. He very much takes this them versus me approach. He's like, you know, yeah, those other photographers, those paparazzi, they were mean to Britney, but I was really kinder. That kind of approach. As the documentary progresses, and he is telling more about his story, we reach a point where he, in recollecting how he would take photos of Britney, he tells a story about how a friend calls him up, says, hey, grab your camera, it's just going to be me and you. We're going to get these exclusive photos. And he grabs his camera. They go. They find Britney at, I guess, kind of a rest stop or a gas station. And the way he tells the story, he says he walks up to Britney. He's like, "Hey, Britney, I just want to ask you a few questions, get a few photos, and then I'll leave you alone, all right?" You know, he tries to paint it very sympathetically. At this point in the documentary of the narrative, Britney is like on her way to, I think, something regarding custody of her children. Obviously, that's on her mind, a very emotional custody battle regarding her kids. This photographer shows up. He's like, "Oh, I just want to ask you a couple of questions, you know." Obviously, Britney is not in the mood for that. Where the documentary pulls the rug out from underneath us, it suddenly reveals the photographer. This is the photographer that took the infamous photos of Britney hitting the vehicle with an umbrella. You might remember that. It was around the same time she had a shaved head. And so that reveal is kind of shocking. And what makes it even more just, I don't know what word, fascinating, I guess. The photographer, again, doing the interview, doing this current interview, he's like, "And I had no idea Britney wanted me to stop." The interviewee, the interviewer, who rarely, you don't hear her talk often, but she does ask a follow-up question here. She says, "What about when Britney told you to stop or told you to leave her alone?" And the guy's like, "Oh, we didn't know she meant it like that." Going back to what I was saying about the limited budget, the documentary does, it has the rights to Hit Me Baby One More Time. I know, Britney fans, I got the title wrong. But anyway, but if we're going to look at Britney, because the documentary talks about how she sends out messages of how she's feeling. But if you're going to do that, then you also have to address songs like Lucky or Every Time. So I understand they couldn't play Britney's entire catalog, but if it would have been nice, I guess, to take a look at some of those other songs, even just mention them. I don't know how much they could do. Another really eye-opening aspect of this documentary, some of the questions that the media was asking Britney, Justin, just questions regarding, their love life, the sex life, all that. Just even one male, I think it was like a talk show host. He asked her about, I don't even feel comfortable. Very personal question regarding her body, and it's just, what were they thinking? The media back then. Another thing that just really quickly comes to mind, if you're going to talk about Britney's, I guess some of the years where things kind of spiraled out of control in a way, it's important, I feel like, to talk about, I guess you might call it the Gimme More era, where I remember she did the MTV, that award show appearance where she decided to, whatever costume they had decided, she decided to, I guess, perform in kind of lingerie-esque apparel, and everyone made fun of her for it, which was so mean of them. But it was around that era where I think the person's name was Chris. They did that video, that Leave Britney Alone video. The documentary doesn't mention that. That person might have been good to interview. And then speaking of interviewees, it also talks about the Free Britney movement. There are a couple of people who run it's a podcast where they analyze Britney's Instagram post. And I kind of, at first, I didn't know what to think of that. But then the more they talk, you want to be careful not to read between lines that aren't there. But some of the things they point out about her Instagram post, like perhaps little hidden messages maybe, I admit, again, at first I kind of was like, I don't know about it. But the more some of the things they point out, I'm like, huh. You never know. There's one social media post in particular that Britney did regarding a rose that it'll hit you. You do hope she's okay. Just another quick thing. The documentary tries to tie what happened with Bill Clinton and Monica to Britney and how early on in her career they tried to make her look sexy and stuff. If you're wondering what's the connection, I saw the document. I still don't understand the connection there. It did remind me of how that Pepsi commercial where Britney, she performs, and then at the end of it, it shows Bob Dole, who was Clinton's. He ran against Bill Clinton, and Bob Dole's sitting there watching it, and he has his dog with him. Dog barks. Bob Dole says, "Down, boy," and of course he's not talking about I always, if you're thinking, Josh, just play the commercial. No, because I have always, even as a kid, I found that commercial creepy as heck. That little tag at the end with Bob Dylan. And it wasn't just me, it was my friends too. I remember at school, some kids were like, that was kind of creepy in a way. Some people thought it was hilarious, but anyway, I'm just rambling now. Guys, the documentary, I would give it 2.5 out of 4 stars. If you're a Britney Spears fan, I say check it out. If you are nostalgic for Britney, if you're concerned about her right now, how she's doing, again, check it out. It is fascinating. It's fascinating part for the nostalgia factor, and then part because you do hope that she is okay. So yeah, just some really quick thoughts about Framing Britney Spears. It's on Hulu. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, click like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Link in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.